Join us at the Nats Chat Hangout at Walters on Wednesday, August 6th. We'll get started at 5 p.m. prior to the game against the Athletics. Come share your early thoughts on the Mike DiBartolo era.
A massage chair might seem a bit extravagant, especially these days. 8 different settings, adjustable intensity, plus it's heated, and it just feels so good. Yes, a massage chair might seem a bit extravagant, but when it can come with a car, suddenly it seems quite practical. The all-new 2025 Volkswagen Tiguan, packed with premium features like available massaging front seats, it only feels extravagant.
2-1 to Ortiz. Line drive right center field. This is going to get down. It's going to go by Dalen Lyle and go all the way to the warning track as he picks it up. He'll fire it in. Ortiz rounds second and holds. Is coming in to score is Monasterio. And the Brewers score yet another run. They have 5 in and lead it 6-1.
Now the pitch. Swing and a drive hit well to left center field. This one way back. Wood going back. Young going back. It is going, and gone. Goodbye. Andrew Vaughn's third into the game is a 2-run home run. And the Brewers continue to just pile it on here in the top of the 8th inning. 2 more runs home. It's now Milwaukee 16 and Washington 4.
And welcome to Nats Chat, along with MASNsports.com Nationals insider Mark Zuckerman, who is at Nationals Park. I'm Al Galdi, host of the Al Galdi podcast. The Nats on Friday evening began the post-MLB trade deadline portion of their season. How ugly might things get? Well, this game was ugly. A 16-9 loss to the Milwaukee Brewers at Nationals Park in Game 1 of a 3-game series. In a game that really wasn't even that close. The Nats scored 5 runs in the bottom of the 9th inning. This was a game in which the Nats allowed the Brewers to total a staggering 25 hits, most hits allowed by the Nats in a regular season game since the franchise moved to Washington, D.C. in the 2004-2005 offseason. This also was a game in which the Nats committed 3 errors. This was a game that lasted for 3 hours and 22 minutes. The Nats now are 44-65, second worst record in the National League. The Brewers now are 65-44. That is the best record in the majors. If you have never given this podcast a 5-star rating and or have never written a nice review of the podcast, please consider doing so. You on Apple Podcasts and on Spotify can both rate the podcast and write reviews. And if you've already done these things, we say thank you. The Nats on Friday afternoon called up 4 players from AAA Rochester. The Nats on Friday evening did get some good offensive performances from key young players. But Mark, the Nats pitching on Friday evening was dreadful. 25 hits allowed to the Brewers. You think about that hit total, that really is something. The Nats' 5 pitchers in this game combined to throw 201 pitches over 9 innings. Quite the exhibition of pitching at Nationals Park on Friday evening.
Just think how long the game would have been, Al, without the pitch clock. We would have been pushing 4 hours on this one. So at least there's a silver lining for you. You know, when they got to hit number 25, I thought to myself, I better look up what the club record is because they got to be getting close to it. And then I realized, oh, wait, they've already shot way past it. The previous record was 22 that was set 5 different times over the last 20 years they've played. And they destroyed that record at 25. And it was everybody involved. I mean, you had Mitchell Parker gives up 8 runs on 12 hits in 4 innings. And then the bullpen gives up 8 runs on 13 hits in 5 innings. And I hate to say it, and maybe you can acknowledge that they faced maybe the toughest opponent that they're going to face in the Brewers, who Miguel Cairo is maybe his best quote so far since taking over as manager. He called the Brewers, said that team is a pain in the butt team for how they battle at bats, how they make contact and keep rallies going the way that we saw that. So maybe there's a little bit of glimmer of hope that this was the worst of it. But as we discussed the other day on the trade deadline show, if you're looking ahead to what the next 2 months could be like, this may have been a glimpse at what we're going to see, especially from a bullpen that now has 0 members over the age of 27 and only 1 who's made more than 45 appearances in the big leagues. That's Jose A. Ferrer. This is an incredibly inexperienced bullpen and a group that has very little track record and in some cases very little upside, the arms that they're putting out there. This was as ugly as it gets. You hope that we don't see a lot more of it, but we could see quite a bit more of this over the next 2 months.
And making the game even uglier is that the Brewers in this game were without a good number of their regulars. No Jackson Chourio, no Sal Frelick, no Bryce Terang, and yet still Milwaukee totaled 25 hits in this game. It is a real shame what has happened to the season of Mitchell Parker. You may recall earlier this season, Parker was doing quite well. The sample size was small, yes, but Mitchell Parker over his first 6 starts of this regular season had an ERA of 2.65. He went into May with an ERA of 2.65, and his season has really unraveled. It's really since start number 5 of his season that the season has come apart at the seams, but the numbers have gotten really ugly. Parker on Friday evening, 8 runs in 4 innings. He gave up 12 hits, which were 2 home runs, 2 doubles, and 8 singles. He issued a walk. He recorded 3 strikeouts. He threw a lot of pitches, did throw a lot of strikes, 4 innings, 84 pitches, 59 strikes, just 25 balls. But whatever, he got hammered in this game. Parker in the top of the 3rd allowed 5 runs on 2 doubles, 4 singles, and a sac fly. The rate at which the Nats were giving up hits in this game really cannot be overstated. Now, Parker, over his previous 2 outings, had done pretty well. July 19th, a 4-2 win over the San Diego Padres at Nationals Park. Parker in that game, 2 runs in 6 innings. And then last Saturday night, July 26th, a 9-3 win at the Minnesota Twins. Parker in that game, 2 runs in 5 2/3 innings. But he in that game gave up 8 hits. And you look at what has happened with Parker's season now, 22 starts. The ERA is at 5.35. The WHIP is at 1.47. We were looking at this guy as maybe, a nice development piece and someone who could be a part of Nats rotations for seasons to come. I don't want to say that possibility has been entirely eradicated, but he's not doing well, and his season has become pretty disturbing.
It's really not good. And the common theme in most of these games for him is that one inning gets completely away from him. You saw it the last time he faced the Brewers in Milwaukee earlier this month. Gives up 6 runs in the 3rd inning, gave up 7 total in the outing, but a vast majority of them came in that 1 inning. And what happened in this time? Gets through the 1st, gives up a solo homer in the 2nd, but all right, you're fine. And then the 3rd inning, it all fell apart on him with 5 runs scored. And it was a chance to just be a 2-run inning. He had 2 outs, and then he couldn't finish it and gives up back-to-back doubles to the 8 and 9 hitters, scoring 3 more runs. Within that inning, there's also a bunt single to the right side that he and Nathaniel Lowe couldn't handle. And I'm not saying that was entirely Parker's fault, but it was just another one of those little plays not made. And it's like everything spiraled from there. And I really think with him, it's not so much a physical issue. I think it's a mental issue that once things start to go south on him, he has a hard time getting it back. Now, the strange thing is he can get out of that inning, giving up 5-6 runs, and he can come back and look okay after that. For whatever reason, in the moment, he cannot stop the bleeding in those 1 blow-up innings. That's what's holding him back right now. I don't know if he can figure it out. He's obviously going to keep getting chances because they don't have a whole lot of other options at this point. They still need a 5th starter. We'll get to that, what they're going to do here next week. So I think he's probably safe for the better part of the remainder of the season. But you're right, in the bigger picture, I don't think you can just pencil him in as part of the long-term plan here at this point, given what we've seen from him now over, 3 months of the season.
The only guy currently in the Nats rotation who you would say for sure will be in the 2026 rotation is Mackenzie Gore. Now, it may well be that Brad Lord is in the rotation next season. It still could be that Jake Irvin is in the rotation next season. But in terms of you feel certain that this guy will be in the rotation next year, I don't think there is extreme certainty with anyone other than Mackenzie Gore right now. This is an audition for Mitchell Parker. He needs to show well for himself here. We don't know who's going to be running baseball operations. We don't know who the manager is going to be. And, this is one of these statistical things that is not a good thing. Mitchell Parker's strikeout rate is 5.89, which is really low. His ERA is 5.35. His ERA is nearly higher than his strikeout rate. That is not good. That is really not the way that is supposed to be. I'd love to know, in Nats history, has that ever happened, that a starting pitcher had, what you would call a qualified number of starts, and he winds up with an ERA higher than his strikeout rate? That is something.
The only one I can think of who might fit that bill is the great Livan Hernandez, who was not a strikeout pitcher. So I'm looking him up right now to see. In 2006, 24 starts with the Nationals, 5.34 ERA, 5.5 strikeouts per 9 innings. And in 2009, it's only 8 starts for them after he came back, joined them later in the year, 5.36 ERA and 5.0 strikeouts per 9. So actually a higher ERA than strikeouts per 9. Livan did it a different way than most do, and that was a different era back then. That was not a high strikeout era for a lot of people. For his career, he only averaged 5.6 strikeouts per 9 innings over a very long and mostly successful career. That's pretty amazing. That doesn't really work in 2025, I would say, for most anyone who pitches in the big leagues. It is who Parker is, and he's going to have to be a pitch-to-contact guy, and he can, in theory, do that. We've seen him be successful at times with it, but it does require precise command, and it requires him really buckling down in situations with runners on base and not letting innings get away from him, and certainly that's been a huge issue for him here this year.
Yeah, it is funny when you look at the strikeout rates for not just like so-so pitchers from yesteryear, but great pitchers like Tom Glavine, who we think about as one of the best pitchers of the last, 25, 30 years. His career strikeout rate, 5.3. Like, it just goes to show you, it's just a totally different game back in, the 80s and 90s, to say nothing of, back in the 50s, 60s, and 70s. But yeah, Mitchell Parker got to get on track here. He has 2 months to right himself, but the numbers have gotten to a pretty bad place.
Tim Shover's here to tell you about Babbel.
Primera y segunda, lanza, compró, el batazo por el lado izquierdo, atrás el dinero, la bola se va, se va, se va, se va, se fue la fruta. Home run, James Wood. 7-0 están ganando los nacionales a los Cardenales de San Luis.
Ellos estaban pidiendo que rompa el hielo y que anote su primer cuadrangular. Por fin ha llegado. Aquí está presente. ¡Woo!
If you want to know what Luciano and Gustavo are saying on the broadcast on calls such as this one, then check out Babbel. And here's their special offer for Nats Chat listeners. 60% off subscriptions at babbel.com/NatsChat. Get up to 60% off at babbel.com/NatsChat. That's spelled BABBEL.com/NatsChat. Babbel.com/NatsChat. Rules and restrictions may apply.
A massage chair might seem a bit extravagant, especially these days. 8 different settings, adjustable intensity, plus it's heated, and it just feels so good. Yes, a massage chair might seem a bit extravagant, but when it can come with a car, suddenly it seems quite practical. The all-new 2025 Volkswagen Tiguan, packed with premium features like available massaging front seats, it only feels extravagant.
And the delivery. Swing a line drive hammer deep left. This is trouble. Way back it goes, and it is gone into the flower bed. It just sneaks over the fence for a 2-run homer for Contreras. It's 11-4 Milwaukee. That's his 4th hit of the night and his 9th homer of the year.
And then with the Nats bullpen in this 16-9 loss to the Brewers on Friday evening, 4 Nats relievers combining to allow 8 runs, 6 earned in 5 innings. Jackson Rutledge allowed 1 run in 1 inning. He in the top of the 5th faced 7 batters, got 3 outs. He gave up 3 singles and issued a walk. Rutledge in this appearance, 30 pitches, 14 strikes. That was it, 14 strikes versus 16 balls. Zach Brixey tossed the scoreless top of the 6th. Ryan Ludis allowed 5 runs, 3 earned in 1 inning. He in the top of the 7th allowed 5 runs, 3 earned on a homer, 4 singles, and a hit by pitch. And also in the inning were 2 errors, a throwing error by shortstop C.J. Abrams and a fielding error by Ludis. This was not a good defensive outing for the Nats. Ludis on Friday afternoon, one of 4 players who the Nats recalled from AAA Rochester. And Andre Laura allowed 2 runs in 2 innings. Top of the 8th, he gave up a 1-out 2-run homer by Andrew Vaughn to left center for a 16-4 Brewers lead. Rutledge, Brixey, Ludis, and Laura. This is the likes of what we're going to be seeing here moving forward when it comes to this Nats bullpen.
especially if they're trailing. I mean, Miguel Cairo very coyly did not want to officially name his new closer when he was asked about it pregame. And he said, you'll see when the time comes. I'll tell you what, it may be a while until we see that because they're going to have to actually hold a lead going into the ninth inning. We haven't even talked about who the setup men are going to be. You saw in this case probably who the B bullpen when you're trailing is, and it was ugly. And, they had to call up 3 guys to replace arguably their 3 most reliable relievers that they traded, Finnegan, Chafin, and Garcia. We didn't see Ribalta. It'll be interesting to see what he can do now that he's healthy again. He was somebody who made the opening day rotation. There was some promise there. But let's be clear, Ryan Ludus showed nothing in his first stint here earlier this summer. And if you're asking, like I was myself, like why was he the guy called up in this case? The alternatives are not great. At AAA, you're talking Eduardo Salazar, who has been really bad when he's been up here. Mason Thompson, who I think they still have some hopes for, but I think they feel like he's also still really working his way all the way back from Tommy John surgery. The options are not great, and that said a lot when you see that Ryan Ludus is called up, a guy who already had an ERA, I think, in the 9s at his promotion, and he gives up just an awful inning, facing 10 batters, 5 runs allowed. That error was just like the absolute low point you could think of. In an inning gone awry, in a game gone awry, in a season gone awry, for him to just not be able to control the ball, thinking he's going to have a play at the plate, can't do that, and then can't even get a hold of the ball to make a play at first. That was really ugly. I don't know how much longer we will see him up here, but I think it says a lot that in their mind, Ryan Ludus was one of their better options to be called up here to help account for the 3 losses from the trade deadline.
Well, the Nats with Mike Rizzo had a hard time putting together major league bullpens, but part of that and an extension of that is that they rarely had relief pitching depth in the minors, and this has come up before of, well, who do they have to call up to help out the bullpen? And too often we've had that conversation, and that's something that really needs to be improved upon. Organizational depth when it comes to relief pitching options. It's not just about the bullpen at the major league level being better. It's about having more realistic, viable, legitimate options in the minors. This team has not had that for a while. So while we're talking Nats pitching here, Ludus called up. You mentioned Orlando Ribalta. The Nats on Friday afternoon announced having recalled him. And the third pitcher who the Nats recalled from Rochester on Friday afternoon, Shinnosuke Ogasawara, although not necessarily to start. When a 5th starter is needed here, will he be the starter, or are we not certain of that right now?
That is still to be determined. So look at it this way. They have off days. They had the off day Thursday. There's another one coming up on Monday. If they so choose, and I think they might, they don't, even if they use 5 starters, they don't need one until, I think, Wednesday against the A's. And if they want, they could even wait till next weekend in San Francisco to do it. So they have some time, and I think that was the thinking there. Bring him up. He's pitching out of the bullpen for now. We didn't see him in this game, but perhaps we will. And then we'll see. As we've discussed so many times, Cade Cavalli is the preferred option. But he pitched again Thursday night at Rochester, and it once again was not pretty. And he's now got a 6 ERA at AAA. No consistency. Getting hit hard. He's striking guys out, so there is that. But if the whole idea is that you're going to call him up once he's earned it, he has not earned it yet. And maybe there's still time for him to have one more good one before then make a decision to bring him up. But at the moment, he's not the guy. And so they have to look at what else they have. And so maybe that is Ogasawara, who did pitch better at AAA when he was there. But I think we know in the long run who could be a big part of this moving forward and who is not going to be a big part of this moving forward. But it's clear to me that they are not going to call up Cade Cavalli until he has done something in Rochester to truly merit it. And at this point, he has not done that.
He hasn't, and it's so frustrating because I don't think he needs to pitch like a Cy Young candidate. He just needs to show some growth, some improvement, and then he'll be promoted. And he's not doing that. Cade Cavalli this season for Rochester, 15 starts, 65 innings. The ERA is at 6.09. The whip is at 1.55. You mentioned the strikeouts. He is striking guys out. He has 72 strikeouts over the 65 innings, but the run prevention has not been there at all. He's issuing walks, he's giving up hits, and he's not looking at all like a guy who was taken with a first-round pick in the 2020 draft. And the concern would be this. So he's quote-unquote healthy in his recovery from the Tommy John, but is he one of these guys who post the surgery is not the same that he was pre the surgery? That would be my concern, that, we're now 2+ years removed from the surgery. If it's still not clicking for him, the fear becomes, is it going to click for him? Like, is he forever lessened because he underwent this surgery?
Yeah, it's an absolutely fair question. It was a very long recovery process for him, probably a year longer or close to a year longer than most people hoped it would be. But I think the other thing to keep in mind is even when, it's hard to think this far back, but even when he was called up for that one big league start that he made late in the 2022 season, he wasn't tearing it up in the minors. He had a 3.71 ERA at Rochester that year in 20 starts. I'm looking at his minor league stats here. He was much better in 2021 in Wilmington and in Harrisburg, but he's never really had big-time success at the AAA level. And, not to say that that's necessary, but it's not like there's been this, even pre-injury, it's not like there was this really smooth, consistent dominance at the minor league level that said, this guy is ready and he's going to be a big-time star here in the big leagues. And he made the one start and it wasn't good. And then he's dealt with injuries ever since. There's still plenty of time for it. And I suppose in some ways, if you're the Nationals, you don't have to force it. You're not trying to win that much right now. Might as well give him more time to find some level of consistency at AAA. But the clock is ticking and we're pretty far into his professional career at this point, and it just has not happened for a variety of reasons. And as I said, I don't think they're going to bring him up just because he's a first-round pick and just because they've been counting on him for so long. They're going to make him earn his way up here.
The Nats offense in this 16-9 loss to the Brewers on Friday evening was good. 9 runs, 15 hits, 4 walks, 5 for 18 with runners in scoring position. The 15 hits were a homer, a triple, 3 doubles, and 10 singles. Now, 5 of the runs, 4 of the hits, and 2 of the walks came in a 5-run ninth in what was quite clearly garbage time. So that needs to be acknowledged. But the Nats did hit in this game, and they got good offensive production from a good number of young players. So there were some positives to this game. C.J. Abrams, he is the Nats starting shortstop and number 1 batter, went 3 for 5 with a double, an RBI single, another single, and a walk. Although he did commit 2 throwing errors. He committed 2 of the Nats' 3 errors in this game. Dalen Lyle, he is the Nats starting right fielder and number 7 batter, 2 for 4 with an RBI triple, an RBI double, and a hit by pitch. Brady House, he is the Nats starting third baseman and number 6 batter, 2 for 5 with a 2-run single and another single. And Robert Hassell III, he did not start, but he came off the bench to play center field. He went 2 for 2 with a double and a 2-run single. The Nats on Friday afternoon announced having recalled Hassell from AAA Rochester. Hassell in the bottom of the 8th, a pinch 2-out double to center field on a ball that went off the glove of center fielder Blake Perkins as he attempted to make a running backhanded catch while approaching the wall. And Hassell in the Nats' 5-run ninth, a 2-out first pitch, 2-run single to right field to cut the Nats deficit to 16-9. So on what was a rough night at the ballpark, Abrams, Lyle, House, Hassell all coming through to varying degrees. That was nice to see.
It was nice to see. I would have liked to see that earlier in the game when it was still competitive, potentially. They did very little against Jose Quintana, the Brewers starter, and that's no surprise. Quintana's last 6 starts against the Nats entering this one, this goes all the way back to 2022 when he was with the Mets, they had scored 3 total runs in those 6 starts, never more than 1 per game. So the fact they actually got 2 runs in 5 innings off him was improvement by their standards, but way too little, and they were down the whole way. So yes, they scored some runs late, and it was against, not the Brewers' best relievers. But I think we have to, acknowledge that what we're looking at here the rest of the way, for any of these young players, it's not really just about the situations and whether or not they're helping them win games, but are they getting the experience? Are they taking advantage of whatever opportunities they get? Lyle is starting to show more. I think there is some growth there from him of what he's done in now an extended stretch here where he's played regularly. And I'm really interested to see what happens now that Robert Hassell is up here as well. He was not in the lineup, as you said. came off the bench late in garbage time and double and a 2-run single. That's great. I wouldn't be surprised if we see him in the lineup on Saturday against the right-hander, although it's a really tough one in Brandon Woodruff for the Brewers. I asked Miguel Cairo about it pregame, and he said that he wants to make sure that everybody gets at bats, but he also kind of made a point that I wasn't expecting from him, which is to say that just because you're a top prospect, you still have to earn your playing time up here. And we've often heard in the past with Mike Rizzo and Davey Martinez that they weren't going to call up one of their top prospects unless they were going to play every day or close to it. They didn't want guys sitting on the bench. And Cairo struck a little different tone in that regard, essentially trying to say, like, no, you still got to show something. You do have to earn it. Let's also remember Dylan Cruz is coming up here at some point. He took Friday off at Rochester. He's going to play 6 innings Saturday and Sunday. They may be slow playing this, giving him more time to get back into shape. But eventually there's going to be a significant logjam there in the outfield. Somebody goes down when he comes up. So I'm curious to see what Hassell does with this opportunity, but he may not be given as much of an opportunity as you would think, given what else is around here and how they seem to feel about him.
Well, there, of course, is a chicken and egg thing here, which is how do you earn an opportunity if you're not getting opportunities to earn opportunities, you know? So you can sort of play that game. And if you're not going to play Hassell a bunch, then how's he going to play well to where you should play him more? So I would, inject that into the conversation. But yeah, I was not very pleased to not see Hassell in the lineup, but he came off the bench and did well. Good to see that. James Wood, if you're curious about him, he is an starting left fielder and number 2 batter, 1 for 4 with a single and a walk. The stat of the night, if you watch the game on the Apple broadcast, and Mark noted this on X, James Wood at one point, 1 for 42 on non-fastballs since July 4th. Let me repeat that. 1 for 42 on non-fastballs since July 4th. He did not have a good month of July, but that stat was a whopper and speaks to the nature of the struggles that he had this past month.
Yeah, and you can see it in the at-bats. Think about the first half of the year. What made him so good? He wasn't getting fastballs to hit regularly because teams know how good he is at that, but he was doing damage on the off-speed stuff as well. The way he does that, keeping his front shoulder, his front hip closed, taking those breaking balls and changeups on the outside part of the plate and driving them to left field, left center field. That's what made him such an elite player, an elite hitter the first half of the season. What you have seen since then, over the last month or so, is the shoulder, the hip starts flying open, and now he's lunging and reaching for these breaking balls and off-speed pitches on the outer third, even beyond, and not making solid contact, if making contact at all. And until he proves that he can do something with those, he's not going to see fastballs again. Now, the hit in this game did come off a fastball. He hit it 114 miles an hour, left center field. Great. But he's probably not going to see a lot more of those until he shows that he can handle the breaking stuff again. It's a big challenge for him and Darnell Coles and Chris Johnson, the assistant hitting coach. He's fighting it right now. He's got to get it back. To me, to the untrained eye, I can see the swing looks different. He's pulling off in a way that he didn't do it in the first half of the year. He's got to find a way to stay closed, stay on those outer pitches, the off-speed stuff, and start driving it to the opposite field again like he did for the first 3 months.
We've talked about this. I'm not convinced that the home run derby is the thing, but it is kind of wild how this does more or less coincide with not just the home run derby, but the prep for the home run derby. And if you are a part of Nats Nation on X, on social media, there are a lot of people who are all over this, that the derby worked to wreck the swing of James Wood, at least temporarily. And I get it. I mean, the timing does line up. You can't deny that at this point.
No, I get it too. I asked him about it, a couple of weeks ago now when it was still kind of fresh, and he insisted he didn't believe any of that stuff. That wasn't the case. I haven't asked him again recently. We may be getting to that point where we have to raise the subject. Again, I don't know that he would ever acknowledge it, even if in the back of his mind he had some doubts about it. Whatever the case, his swing does look different, as it does for a lot of hitters when they go through slumps. This is a common way that hitters slump. You start trying to pull everything and you fly open and you miss the stuff on the outer third. But as that stat showed, they're just going to keep giving him a steady diet of off-speed and breaking balls. And it's up to him to prove that he can do something with it, or else he's just not going to see fastballs on a regular basis again.
Josh Bell did not play on Friday evening. The Nats starting designated hitter was Paul DeJong. Paul DeJong was the Nats' number 3 batter, to give you a sense of what we're looking at here. And DeJong did homer. He went 1 for 4 with a solo home run.
A massage chair might seem a bit extravagant, especially these days. 8 different settings, adjustable intensity, plus it's heated, and it just feels so good. Yes, a massage chair might seem a bit extravagant, but when it can come with a car, suddenly it seems quite practical. The all-new 2025 Volkswagen Tiguan, packed with premium features like available massaging front seats, it only feels extravagant.
And certainly Kyle stands at the front of that group with, just the success he's had over the last several years, an all-star last year, near the Nationals closing record, just a big part of the Nationals last few years, and a real class act. And so when I spoke to Kyle, I just emphasized that as much as I could, that we're really appreciative of how he conducted himself on the field and in the clubhouse, and was a leader for the Nationals. So we'll certainly miss him and be rooting for him from afar.
I did want to mention something off the trade deadline. We did not get to this on our special MLB trade deadline show that came out on Thursday night. The Washington Post reported this, that the Nats, with Kyle Finnegan this past offseason and signing him to a 1-year, $6 million contract, deferred money in that contract. $2 million in 2027, $2 million in 2029. And I do think it is worth highlighting this. It's one thing to defer money in a big money contract, like, say, the Max Scherzer contract. And actually, you could argue that that's sound economic practice to do something like that, because $1 today is worth more than $1 tomorrow. But when you're deferring money in a 1-year, $6 million contract, does that not speak to this fear, this concern, this worry that there's a cash problem with the Lerner ownership group? We're not privy to the group's finances, of course. But given what has happened with the family's primary business, right, the commercial real estate business, how do you not at least wonder? You don't have to declare it with complete certainty, but how do you not at least wonder if there is a cash problem, if there is a liquidity problem with this ownership group when you're deferring money in a 1-year, $6 million contract? I thought that was a very notable nugget from the last 24 to 48 hours.
I'm not going to claim to know enough about how that process works to understand if there's an issue along the lines of what you're describing. What I will say is I actually heard this months ago, maybe even a little bit after he had signed, and I mistakenly thought that was already out there, that people knew that about the contract, and it wasn't. So good on Andrew Golden of the Post for making it public and putting that out there. My understanding at the time was this. Mike Rizzo had a budget for the offseason. Here's how much you can spend on your free agents and ultimately what the payroll is going to be. And while he was waiting things out with Kyle Finnegan, who he had non-tendered, he went and signed some other relievers like Lucas Sims, Jorge Lopez, Colin Poche. He signed Paul DeJong in spring training for $1 million. And those little bits along the way, as he was still waiting on Finnegan, left him without as much as he ideally would have liked to get Finnegan at the full price. And so when it came time to finally do that deal with him well into March, if I remember right, they said, we can pay you $6 million, but we can't pay you that much this year. We don't have that in the budget for the 2025 payroll. So we're going to have to defer some of that and spread it out. And Finnegan ultimately agreed to that. It does say a lot about the overall state of things and that they couldn't even fudge that a little bit. That was apparently a hard budget of what they had to work with at the time. But in signing those other relievers, as we saw, it didn't exactly work out for them. Rizzo left himself with very little left, basically $2 million left on his opening day payroll. And even though Finnegan agreed to it, he ultimately had to agree to a deal that was going to pay him in stages instead of all at once.
Colin Poche, Lucas Sims, Jorge Lopez, where are you now? But just to be super clear, deferring money on a 1-year contract, especially a 1-year, $6 million contract, that is exceptionally rare, right?
Yes, it actually happened with Joey Gallo a year ago, though. Similar thing where I think it was split up 2.5 and 2.5. Yeah, you don't hear about this kind of stuff very often at all. And it doesn't speak well about the overall situation, of course, and it does show how tight the budget has been here in recent years. And I'm sure if they could go back, they probably would have handled some of this a little bit differently, but they got Finnegan to agree to it. And, he didn't have to, but I think at that point, he didn't have a whole lot of other options. And so he said, well, I'll get my $6 million eventually. We can say it's a 1-year, $6 million deal, but it is going to be spread out over 3 years.
You tell us what you think. Hit us up on X at Nats_chat. You can find us on Blue Sky at Nats Chat Podcast. You can email us natschatpodcast@gmail.com. We have a website you can check out too, natschatpodcast.com, at which you can purchase a Nats Chat Podcast t-shirt. All Nationals radio highlights on Nats Chat are courtesy of 106.7 The Fan. For Mark Zuckerman, I'm Al Galdi. We thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you next time on the Nats Chat Podcast.
Pitch on the way, swung on, line drive, base hit right field. House scores from third. Here comes Lyle to the plate. That throw will be cut off by the first baseman, Vaughn. Robert Hassell is 2 for 2 coming in off the bench. It's a 2-run single, scoring House, scoring Lyle. And the Nationals have plated 5 runs here in the bottom of the 9th inning.